Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now, the Funk Soul Brother. Right about now, the Funk Soul.
They're gonna run out of cheeseheads soon.
The Funk Soul Brother. Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now, the Funk Soul Brother. Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Right about now, about now, about now, about now.
What is poppin', y'all? It's the man Cloudboy Bales. Welcome to another episode of Wisco Sports Weekly Wednesday Predictions. It is week 18, and I am Cloudboy Bales. Final week of the regular season before we get into playoff football. Obviously, after this week, the next 3 weeks are going to be nothing but exciting playoff games. And then, of course, we have a Super Bowl. I mean, a lot can happen. But obviously, this is going to be huge. Anyways, it's huge regardless of what goes on. Some big games that implicate playoff implications and so much more. But obviously, if you like what you see, subscribe below, comment with your thoughts, and we will get down to business. So first off, 2 games on Saturday, a doubleheader on ABC and ESPN. Pittsburgh taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Congratulations to the Baltimore Ravens on locking down the 1 seed. Obviously, they don't have to worry about anything for the next couple weeks. This game is obviously meaningless to them. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, trying to get a playoff spot. They're going to work with Mason Rudolph again, who's actually been doing really good for Pittsburgh. So I think, on the other hand, I'm just going to say Pittsburgh wins because I feel like this game means more to them, and I'm assuming Lamar Jackson will not play. Next up, Houston Texans taking on the Indianapolis Colts. A big matchup. Obviously, the winner of this game will go to the could go to the playoffs, and the loser will likely be eliminated. Houston Texans, a very promising year for CJ Stroud. Likely will win Rookie of the Year with the season he had. I think he would have gotten more passing yards than touchdowns if he wouldn't have missed those 2-3 games with that concussion. But you know what? Having him back was huge. Really shows how he really is a great quarterback. Indianapolis definitely really was a team that no one really thought was going to be good. They lost Anthony Richardson for the year, but I am impressed with Gardner Minshew, able to somehow make Indianapolis look good, and that's what's crazy about it. Between the two teams, I am going to go with, it's a tough one, but for some reason, I feel like the Colts are going to win. Unfortunately, I just feel like Stroud isn't there yet, but we'll see. I'm going to say the Colts win. All right, going on to Sunday. We got the Cleveland Browns at the Cincinnati Bengals. Pretty much this is a meaningless game. Cleveland already clinched wild card. Cincinnati's eliminated. This game is meaningless, so I'm just going to pick one. I'll say Cincinnati wins. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Detroit Lions. Detroit got absolutely robbed last week. Everybody in the world knows that they literally made the Cowboys win just because to honor Jimmy Johnson. It was complete stupidity. He was eligible. I think everybody knows that. It was a stupid call. So Detroit, I think, despite that they're really playing for nothing, they obviously, they obviously don't have the first seed. So they really aren't really playing for anything. Minnesota is trying to play for a playoff spot, but I don't really care who they start at quarterback. Watching them last week, they just looked lost. Honestly, I think Detroit's doesn't really seem like they give a crap at this point. They're gonna win because why? It's Dan Campbell. He doesn't care. Detroit will beat Minnesota and eliminate them from playoff contention. Yeah, because crazy enough, Minnesota's still alive. I don't know how that's even possible. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Tennessee Titans. Pretty much Jacksonville has the tiebreaker over Houston or Indianapolis, depending on who wins. So Jacksonville will need to win this game to get into the playoffs. Tennessee just sucks this year. I don't know. They just look bad. Jacksonville knows they need this, so I feel like Jacksonville will win. Next up, New York Jets at New England Patriots. Another game that's absolutely meaningless, but this is likely Bill Belichick's last game ever coaching for the New England Patriots. Quite crazy to believe. The final game is against the New York Jets. the team that he's dominated for decades. What better to go out than beat the New York Jets? I'm taking the Patriots. Next up, Atlanta Falcons taking on the New Orleans Saints. Atlanta obviously eliminated. They need a quarterback, obviously. They're not really playing for much. New Orleans really wants to try to get in the playoffs, so they need a win. This is more important for New Orleans, so I'm going to take New Orleans to beat the Atlanta Falcons. Even though I feel like New Orleans is such a lame team to really watch, I feel like they will win just because Atlanta doesn't really have much to play for. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Carolina Panthers. Carolina obviously is playing for nothing. They have the 1 seed. Well, actually, they gave the Bears the number 1 overall pick in this draft, so Carolina really is playing for nothing at this point. Tampa Bay needs this win desperately, and they make the playoffs, so I feel like Tampa Bay is really riding on another playoff and a division win. I'll take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Next up, the Chicago Bears taking on the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, you know what I'm going to say right now. We saw this same situation last year. Green Bay, everyone thought we weren't going to make the postseason. Everyone was like, oh, let's not get in. But you know what? Green Bay is looking very much confident with a huge win over the Minnesota Vikings. But we saw the same thing last year. And then a big game at home against the Lions, and they choked and we lost. You know what? Could the same thing happen again? This is the same thing that happened to Detroit last year, is happening to the same thing that Chicago is dealing with right now. Between these two teams, you know what? I don't even know how I'm actually going to say this. I regret this so badly, but part of me feels, even though I want to say, oh, Green Bay should easily dominate against Chicago because they're playing for playoffs, I think Green Bay has so much pressure on them right now. I think Chicago is unfortunately going to win. I hate to say this. I just know it's going to happen again. But if that happens, then hopefully that they actually fire Joe Barry. But whatever at this point. I mean, everybody knows what I mean. If they've been watching my last couple of videos, everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say Chicago's going to win. Next up, Denver Broncos at the Las Vegas Raiders. Another meaningless game. Denver really is playing for nothing. That's a shame that they're really treating Russell Wilson like that. I'll just say the Vegas Raiders win. Two teams likely both these teams will get a quarterback next year for sure. Next up, Philadelphia Eagles at the New York Giants. Philly needs this win. If they have any shot of trying to win the division, they ought to hope that the Cowboys lose. But Philly needs to beat the Giants anyways for that to happen. So I'm taking the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the Giants. Next up, Seattle Seahawks at Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, Seattle is trying to get into the playoffs. They need to win, so I'm going to take Seattle to win against the Cardinals. Next up, Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Chargers. My assumption is Patrick Mahomes will not play. He needs to rest up for next week. So I don't think this is a meaningless game. I'm going to say the Chargers win because I don't know. Kansas City without Mahomes is just not good. And then Los Angeles Rams taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, both these teams have clinched playoffs. Congrats to the San Francisco 49ers for clinching the bye. This game is meaningless. I think this is just a game that could be a playoff matchup in the future. I don't know what'll happen, but if I have to pick, I'll just say San Francisco wins. Next up, Dallas Cowboys taking on the Washington Commanders. Dallas, obviously, if they win the division. They need this, so I feel like a game against Washington should be a game that they dominated last time. I say Dallas should win there. And then final game of the regular season, Sunday Night Football, a huge pivotal game that determines the division. We have the Buffalo Bills taking on the Miami Dolphins. This is a big game. Miami literally last week needed one win to get the 1 seed, and they got absolutely trampled by Baltimore. And now with Miami's loss and Buffalo only being 1 game out, Buffalo, if they beat Miami, has a chance to actually take the division, which is now a better because a home game for Buffalo is a big deal. And with that being said, that's exactly what's going to happen. Buffalo will beat the Miami Dolphins. Even though I hate that is the case for Miami. I hate to be it. I think the same thing that we saw last year with Miami choking is going to happen once again in the playoffs. But you know what? It's a wild season. Wild regular season, whatever happens. And you know what? We'll see what happens. But if you like what you see, subscribe below, comment with your thoughts, and we will see you next time.